Hunters, we just smashed through the campaign with Bing 2. We're using a Fire Burst, and it was absolutely insane. Made the leveling process and getting through the campaign super fast, super easy. I wanted to go over what my setup was, how we got through it, and then everything you're going to need to know, including where to find the best gear to make your leveling experience super fast, so that hopping into the end game is going to be nice and easy for you. Before we break down the build, I'm going to show you just the quick run of the last treasure trove in the campaign. This is where you're going to be able to level up pretty quickly because you get a lot of experience from doing these and you get some really great gear from it. So check out the run and then we'll go ahead and we'll break down the build.
Try a new idea. My inspiration will take out every boring obstacle. My creativity has reached new heights. This is art.
So that's the run there. Why don't we break down the spells and we'll talk about some of the fun tech that we use in order to make movement a lot faster during the campaign. The way that this is going to work is we're going to start with your Fire Burst. Now you may not have access to your fourth link here. That's okay. We only made it through the campaign with control here. By the time we got to the very last bit of the campaign, I was able to find some energy gear, which that will come later on. That's going to be your energy right up here. This will allow you to unlock additional spots to fill out your spell. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to pick Fire Burst. So Fire Burst is definitely the strongest out of all of the options we chose. I did try out some Chain Lightning, which was actually very fun, but the boss damage fell off a little bit. I'll have it all written down in the Hero Wick guide right here. This will be in the description of the video. This will include everything that you're going to need to know about the leveling process during the campaign, including where to put your talent points and where to find all of the gear that you're going to need to make the leveling process really easy. With Fire Burst here, it is a spell that is going to cast out and that does an explosion, and this character is built around exploding all of the spells that we do through something called Spell Burst, and we'll show a little bit of gameplay loop at the very end of the video so you can see what the Spell Bursts look like. For Fire Burst here, we're going to be taking Increased Area. This is going to not only increase the area of your Fire Burst itself, it's going to give it additional damage, so more damage, you can't really argue with that. Then we're going to go with Elemental Fusion here. Fire Burst will no longer be able to inflict Ignite. Ignite is a fire damage over time, so we're going to remove that ability, but we're going to add additional elemental damage to the sporting skill, which is quite a bit. For Control Spell, now in the very beginning of the game, we don't really have much that's going to increase our critical strike chance, so we're going to take 100% critical strike rating penalty here, which means that if we had 10, we now have 5. But this will give us some big damage. Now, if you do end up getting enough energy towards the very end, you can always add in some added fire damage. It does do quite a bit of damage here. So that's going to be how you're going to set up your Fire Burst. Now, for the potion here, you definitely are going to need this. Now, I didn't really need to heal all too much because Bing has a lot of range. So most of the monsters were dead before we even got there. We ended up taking Shadow Dash twice, and I'll show you exactly why in just a second. With Shadow Dash, we ended up going with Magic Dash. It adds an extra charge. Eventually, you don't really need it, but to start off, it's really nice to get a little bit of boost, or maybe you were in an elite pack that took you a little bit longer to kill. You'll now have a nice jump start to get into the next pack of monsters. Now, like I said, we did that twice. No, the reason we did that twice is you're going to have charges down the bottom here. You can actually use those charges, and as they're refilling, as long as we don't go down to 0 on any of the charges, we can just constantly dash back and forth. Now, if we do go down to 0 on one, it resets the cooldown for all of them. So you just want to make sure that you're paying attention, and you'll get the timing down so that you can just constantly use these charges as they refresh, and it's going to help with your movement speed and getting through the campaign. Now, like I said, we have 3 charges, so in the very beginning, you can just kind of dash here, and now that was using up all of the charges instead of just using 2. So that was the reason that we took that with your spells. For the next one, we're going to be going with Scorch here. This is just going to give some additional fire damage to cursed enemies. So you're going to cast it on them. They take extra fire damage. Can't really go wrong with that. And then we're going to be going with your spell concentration here. It's going to reduce the area. Now, really, where you're only going to be using this is for bosses. So reducing the area doesn't really matter too much. And that's going to grant additional damage to the sporting skill. For your auras here, we went with Flame Focus first. Activating this is going to grant additional buffs. You're going to get some fire damage. Now, the chance to ignite, obviously, we cannot ignite here, but you're going to get that additional fire damage. Now, this was the very first one that was available to us. Then we ended up going with Charged Flame here. Activating this aura, you and your allies are going to deal additional fire damage. Now, because we don't deal ignite damage, this one can be replaced once you get access to additional spells later on. So that's your spell setup. Let's take a look at your talent tree. So we started with Goddess of Knowledge. That is going to allow us to have access to Beacon, which is going to give us max spell burst. Now, spell burst, you can see right here at the top of the screen. That is going to take whatever spell we cast, which is going to be Fire Burst, and that is going to echo it up to 6 times right here because we have 5 bursts. So you have your spell and then it echoes 5 times. So that's going to be some really big damage, and that is what this whole character is built around. So we're going to get 2 max here, and then by the time we finish this out, we're also going to get Insight. So you're going to gain additional spell damage, and the additional spell cost, you really don't see it too much at all, so you don't really feel it. We're going to be going into some straight damage here. Then we're also going to be getting more movement speed and cast speed. Now, cast speed is going to be very, very important coming up, and we'll talk about why it's going to be so important when we get into the next board. But this is going to give us some additional cast speed, some additional movement speed. The most important part about this right here is that we're going to be getting plus to our spell skill level right here. So that's really great. And then we're also going to be getting max focus blessings. Now, what the focus is right here, every stack of your focus blessings, you're going to grant additional damage. So the initial stacks are going to be 4. Now that's going to keep on stacking up the more that we can get. And then throughout this tree, we're going to have ways to get our spell charges faster because as they're used up, they have to refresh. So this is a really great tree to start off with. Then we're going to be going into Magister. This is the reason that we want to make sure we have cast speed. 100% of the bonus and the additional bonuses to cast speed is also applied to the spell burst charge speed. So after we use our spell burst up and then it's recharging, all of the cast speed is going to make those charges fill up faster. So we ended up having a lot of cast speed in this board here, so it's very important that we went into this. We have some more focus blessing here. And then we're also going to have access to Frail. Frail is going to be a brand new debuff. Frail is going to grant additional 15% increased spell damage taken. And we're also going to get max spell burst charges out of this board. Then we're going to go into Warlord here. Your talent up here is going to make it so that enemies within 10 meters have 0 fire resistance, which is great for us. This board is just going to offer us a whole bunch of fire damage. It's also going to add some attack and spell cast speed, so that's really important again for this build. And it's just some big damage for your fire damage out of this. So now the gear. Now all of this gear can be acquired during the campaign, and it is very good, and it was very easy to get. We didn't have to really farm all too much to get it. They're all going to be coming from treasure tropes, except for your gloves. Now, again, you can come down here into the wiki guide here, and you can see where they drop from, which one, so that you don't farm too much and that you know exactly where to go. The first one we're going to get is going to be Brainwave Emitter. This is going to give us max spell burst, additional cast speed. For the necklace here, we're going to be running Chain of Resistance. This is going to be some attack and cast speed. It's going to either give us increased area for our skills if we've defeated an enemy, and if we haven't defeated an enemy yet, it's going to give us increased area damage, so all of the damage around us is going to do more. Then we're going to be going into Desire of Survival here. This is going to give us some movement speed when we're at full life, which is always nice. And it's also going to restore some of our max life, and it's going to knock back nearby enemies when we get to low life. Going to give us some nice maximum life percentage. All around, just a great option for you while you're leveling. Then we're going to get Born in Fire ×2. So you're going to go into the treasure trove, you're going to farm until you have 2 of these. It's going to give you maximum fire damage for every 1 level. So it's a really great way to keep on increasing your fire damage. And then we're going to go with Scorching Wards, and we're going to do this ×2 as well. Your fire skills will get +1 level. It's going to add some fire damage. It's also going to add some fire spell damage. and it's going to give you an increased percentage to your fire damage and your skill area. So if we add this one together, it's some big damage and some big increase to our area. Then we're going to be going with Grace Boots here. This is going to give us some additional movement speed when we're at max Focus Blessing, and we're going to get some chance for your non-critical strikes to grant Focus Blessing stacks. Now remember, we reduced the critical strike chance with one of our spells a little bit, so this is actually going to allow us to get to that Focus Blessing max, which, as you saw, gives us additional damage, and it's going to give us some additional bonus. So this is a really great way to make sure that we get to some of those Focus Blessing stacks. It also has a lot of maximum energy shield, so if you do end up taking a hit during the campaign, this is quite helpful. Then we're going to be going with Genius Battle Gear. This is also going to take away some of our critical strike rating as well, but we're also going to get an additional critical strike damage bonus. And we're also going to gain 40% spell critical strike rating for every one spell burst charge consumed for 10 seconds, and that's going to stack up to 10. So that'll get up to 400% critical strike rating for spells. So let's talk about the hero trait here. So for your hero trait, Bing is very unique in the way that you can choose your traits. You're going to unlock Creative Genius because that's just a no-brainer. That just opens up your maximum spell burst, and it's going to give you your inspiration machines. It's going to be these two machines floating around us here. Then as we get through, you now will have the option to choose. So what's kind of cool with Bing is that you have two different options and sometimes up to 3 options to pick. Again, you can follow along the wiki if you want to, because those will be in there. But we're going to take Inspiration Overflow. You're going to instantly restore Whimsy Essence when consuming Spell Burst charges. And you're going to restore 6 Whimsy Essence for every 3 stacks of your Spell Burst charges consumed. 20% additional hit damage for skills cast by Spell Burst. Instantly restoring 80 Ingenuity Essence after entering a stage or reviving. So how Bing works, on the bottom here you can see these glowing blue and red little meter here. Those meters are going to be your Ingenuity and your Whimsy. Now Whimsy will restore itself 20 every 1 second. So it has a maximum of 100. Once you get up to 100, then you will gain 25 of your Ingenuity, which is going to be the red side. Once the red side is full, that's when you're going to be able to unleash Ingenuity Overload, which is going to take whatever your maximum spell burst and then triple it for some big damage. Now, every time that your Whimsy meter fills up, which is the blue one, you're going to cast out some projectiles. Those projectiles will make your enemies take additional damage. So it's a really fun combination to use here as you're going. You can see the spell burst up at the top here. You have 5 spell bursts here. It's automatically cast a skill. When we cast that skill, you're going to see them just burst. Now that blue beam that shot out, that was your Whimsy meter. That is going to make them take additional damage here. And then your spell bursts are going to constantly refill here. Now if we cast it outside of our spell burst, there's only 1. So then when we do have our full red meter, we're going to cast this here, and you see the massive amount of damage that it does. Now that was without casting any buffs or anything at all. Once that fills up, that is going to be what you want to do. So every time that you want to activate that, you're just going to hit the F key, and then we're just going to keep on holding this down. You can see that your Whimsy meter will fill up, and then as your Whimsy meter fills up, it's also filling up your Ingenuity. So it's a really fun combination with how this is going to be put together. Now, as you saw with this, we're going to instantly restore 80 Ingenuity Essence. That means as soon as we zone into anything, or if you die on a boss and you revive, you're going to get that Ingenuity back immediately, which means that you're really close to proccing your ultimate, which is going to help kill some bosses much faster. For the next one here, we're going to be taking Supersonic Protocol. This is just going to give us some additional movement speed after we cast our Ingenuity Overload, and that's going to last for 4 seconds. Just a little bit of a way to move through the map a little bit faster. For the next one here, we're going to be going with Mind Domain. Whimsy Explosions, which, as you saw, those were the blue ones that shot out after we have our full stacks of Whimsy. Spawn an Energy Field. You're going to gain 1 stack of Whimsy for every 0.5 seconds staying inside of that static energy field. Now the static energy field look like this right here, that blue one right here. So that circle around us, that is your static energy field. So as you stand in this, we actually are going to gain additional Whimsy, which is incredibly important because that's going to help stack Ingenuity Overload. So standing inside of those is important. That's why we went with this option here. The next one, we're going to be taking Ingenious Chaos Principle. 4% Ingenuity Essence restored per max spell burst. So Ingenuity Essence is the red side. Now remember, we're going to be gaining 25 every 5 seconds. That is actually going to be increased with this here because we can gain additional ingenuity based on your maximum spell burst. So the more spell burst you get as you go later on into the game, the faster you're going to be able to cast your ultimate, and it's going to be pretty crazy because you should be able to eventually get this up so that you can always continuously cast your ingenuity overload. So that'll come later on in the game, but for now, this was a really great option for us to get a little bit faster uptime on your ingenuity overload. So for your gameplay loop, it's pretty simple. You're just going to use your shadow dash, as we talked about earlier. You're just going to bounce back and forth between the two while you're running around. And then as you go, you're just going to use your spell burst as you attack. Stay inside the circles if you can. But Bing has this great thing where even if you're clicking like away from him, whenever the spell bursts go off, it automatically is going to stick to where the target is. So then you're going to use your Scorch, and you can see the little debuff timer right up here, so you can see when to recast it if you're on a tough boss fight. And then as you just stand and cast, you're going to praise your Scorch, and then when you hit your F key, everything is just going to blow up, and you can watch the damage meter just kind of shoot way up through the roof. So then you just wait for that to restore, and then you're going to press it again. So Scorch and your Ingenuity Overload is going to be the way to get some big damage out of all of this. So we just finished the campaign. We haven't done anything to our character outside of that, and we're pushing 666,000 damage, which we're going to really increase as soon as we start hitting the end game. So that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you share it with your friends. Thank you everybody for watching.